Welcome back to the King Win for Charity tournament. As we just saw last round, we had Hosty almost beat out Talento. He came up with like a 2-1 lead, but unfortunately he wasn't able to close it out.
Yeah, I mean, Kalento's Warlock was actually a really cool one. So now we have Massan versus Thijs coming up. And Massan is going to be, I mean, it's a player that has been out of the loop for a little while now. He hasn't been in the Hearthstone community for quite a while. And he's come back and he's actually moved on to the round of 8. So will he be able to beat Thijs, which is one of the... I think we can safely say that Thijs is one of the stronger players out there as far as the Hearthstone scene goes.
Oh yeah, I'd say
he's definitely been very good.
Yeah, he won one of the last major dream hacks, and in the last dream hack, in fact, he got second place. So back-to-back top 2 finishes at DreamHack, which is pretty much the premier tournament of Hearthstone. If you forget about BlizzCon, I guess.
BlizzCon. Yeah, it's one of those really big scenes, and he's been very consistent with this play. And I always look at him, and he's always so calm, despite the fact that sometimes he just gets, you know, the worst RNG possible. He never seems to get aggravated. A bit like Strife Crow, in a way. They kind of share that trait, and I kind of like that cool-headedness from both of them.
Yeah, I think it's just that he knows that he's playing a card game, and he has to accept that. Oh, sometimes you'll get good RNG, sometimes you'll get bad RNG. But, you know, for a player like Thijs, he's playing in so many tournaments that in the end, by the law of large numbers, it's going to even out.
Yeah, RDU says the exact same thing. He's just like, you know what, sometimes I get bad tournament performances, and it's not because I won big events that I'm going to win every single one of them. Eventually, it'll even out, even if I get out RNG'd. So I guess that's a really, you know, it's a really important trait to have as a card game player in general. So the lineup from Massan, let's just go over that again. He was bringing Warrior, Druid, Paladin, and Mage. So he didn't bring his Hunter, or any Hunter, in fact, to the tournament. And you talked to him about, you know, how his decks were built and whether or not he felt they were, you know, up to date post GVG. And he seemed to be thinking that his adaptations were perfectly fine.
Yeah,
right?
he basically, his thought process is that everyone is going to play these decks right now. And I'm going to play slightly older decks because he feels like these older decks kind of counter the decks that are being played right now. It's just an interesting thought process overall, I think.
Yeah. And Thijs is bringing a much more, I guess, standard lineup. He's got his Hunter and Druid, which are to be expected, and then he also has the Mage and Paladin. Although Mage isn't like the most widely, you know, represented class, these two players bringing it might lead to a really interesting mirror match, because Thijs banned the Warrior from Massan, and Massan, obviously, since he's been in the tournament, has been banning Hunter as a good call, I guess. And he's banned the Hunter from Thijs, and they're gonna start the game in a few. And Thijs is gonna start with his Paladin, and Massan is gonna start with his Druid.
Yeah. Before we move on, I just want to say that Thijs actually brought the four most popular classes of the tournament, so he's definitely like a front runner here in that scenario. The game's about to start, and we're gonna have Thijs's Paladin versus Massan's Druid. Why don't we begin?
Yep. How do you feel about this matchup going as a Druid? I mean, we saw the Wild Growth in Massan's hand. I mean, Thijs has a pretty good start with the double Zombie Chow, which is going to be a little troublesome, but oh, Massan has his own.
Yeah, both players are curving out very well, but the Druid does have the Wild Growth. As for what I feel about this matchup, as I've said before, I feel like the Control Paladins kind of match up a bit better against the more rampy wall-style Druids, whereas the more aggressive Paladins, the lower curving Paladins, kind of match up better against the combo Druid, because both Paladins are... Paladin is going to try to be the more controlling player in every matchup, whereas the lower curving Paladin will have more answers for a lowering curving Druid, and the higher curving Paladin, the more control Paladin, is going to have more answers for the higher curving Druid. So unfortunately for Thijs in this scenario, we see that he's running like Zombie Chow's Knife Jugglers. So that's going to be a more lowing curving Paladin, whereas Massan is running Sneasel Shredder and Ancient of War so it's a higher curving Druid. So in this particular scenario, I feel like Massan will have the advantage.
Yeah, and it's actually, like, if you look at the hand right now from Massan, he's got the Innervate, he had the Wild Growth, so that's going to allow him to ramp up quite fast. I mean, Thijs has got to be worried about a swipe. Looking at this board, I would probably be a little wary of it, but you still have to play into it.
Yeah, one interesting... Oh, wow.
Ouch. Is he going to Innervate, coin the swipe, or just wait to get even more value out of it? Alright, he's not afraid of Quartermaster yet, so...
Yeah, turn 4 quartermaster, not the most common play in the world, I'd say.
No, not indeed.
So yeah, good decision by Massan. He knows that he can wait it out a bit more and get even a bigger value swipe in the future.
Yeah, because he'll be able to kill 2 zombie chows, which will lead to him getting the full 10 health off of them, as opposed to only, you know, the 7 or 6 that he was about to have from that swipe. Oh, wow. Double innervate with the swipe.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so he can actually coin out a hero power. He can clear the entire board.
Mm-hmm. This is a very substantial turn here for Massan, because his follow-up on turn 6 could be just an innervate Sneed's Old Shredder. And Thijs' answer to it is something like an Iron Beak Owl, but then how do you kill the 5/7 itself?
Yeah, yeah, this is one of the issues with the lower curving paladin. It just doesn't have enough answers. You have usually one Iron Beak Owl in your entire deck, but when you silence Sneed's Old Shredder, you're gonna have to be worried about cards such as Sylvanas, such as these Ancients of War. You basically don't have enough answers in your deck to remove every single thing, every single threat that the Druid has.
Yeah, Ancient of War is especially one of the. I guess it's one of the bigger culprits of being a problem, because you have to equality it because it has 10 health. But if you could just silence it, you'd be in a very similar situation, because it would go down to 5 health in most cases, in every single case. But with only one Iron Beak Owl, how exactly do you handle so many silence targets?
Is silence even the best move in this turn?
I don't even think it is. I don't know where that leaves you. I mean, you might have to do it, but do you equality and attack with your face into the Sneed's Old Shredder?
I guess that is the play.
Yeah, because you got Dr. Boomer as a follow-up turn, I guess it's fine. And now the Shade has to reset itself, right?
Yeah, Dr. Boom next turn will actually be able to summon Boombots that may potentially be able to contest the Shade as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, ooh, alright. So Ancient of War will come out probably as a result of having seen one equality. Massan must be feeling a little confident about putting it down without being too afraid of running into a second equality. And now he's seen one silence, one equality. That's got to feel pretty good for Massan.
Yeah, both players are kind of running out of cards at the moment, but I would have to say that the advantage kind of goes to Massan, as on average, he'll be top decking bigger cards, bigger threats. His deck just is going to curve out a lot more, whereas Thijs still has the opportunity to draw more things such as shielded mini bots and knife jugglers.
Yeah, but I'm looking at the board right now. I'm thinking to myself, you know, sure, Massan has a pretty good board, but does he have to smash himself into, like, what does he do with that Dr. Boom? Because he's got no good answer to it. Sure, he can, you know, he's got a Sludge Belcher, he's got his Ancient of War, but all it takes for Thijs is some really good RNG with the boom bots, and things could just go downhill.
Yeah, once again, we're going to see how the boom bots hit probably this turn. And if they kill something like the Shade, or they assist in killing the any of the creatures on the board, actually,
any of them really.
Yeah. I think Thijs does want to go try to go for a Shade kill though, and if he gets it, it's going to change the game entirely.
Yeah, it's going to turn the tides around, because right now he's got to be a little afraid of. I mean, do you think he puts Massan on a combo deck? Because he's seen, you know, Ancients of War, which is not something I typically see very often in a deck that tends to run combo, because they generally don't go halfway. Some people tend to.
Oh, so close.
But then again, there's the Knife Juggler and the Paladin Shredder. Now the odds of that Knife Juggler hitting are even higher than they used to be.
Look at that face from Massan.
He's like, yeah, I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah, I don't think that the combo is in. I don't think Thijs puts this deck as a combo deck, simply because he's seeing the Sneed's Old Shredder. There are decks with both Ancient of War and combo, especially we know Thijs. Wow, he's so happy the second bomb didn't hit anything meaningful either.
Yeah, but if this Knife Juggler kills the Shade, wow, come on, Massan. How happy is he after this? Oh, wow. Goodness, this is unrealistically good for him. I cannot believe this.
Yeah,
I can. And the Keeper of the Grove to kill the Knife Juggler.
Yeah, everything's turning out perfect. But yeah, as I mentioned, Dog has had Druid decks that run both combo and Ancient of War, but it's generally not too common. But this Sneed's Old Shredder just basically says, oh, there's no combo in this deck.
Yeah, it basically it tells you that it's a really, really greedy taunt-heavy Druid, right? That's how you'd view it if you were Thijs in this case. So definitely not putting him. But then again, the Shade here just growing to unbearable, you know, size at this point. Shielded mini bot, amazing against Hunter, not so useful right now.
Yeah, just like I was talking about, Massan is going to be top decking big threats like Ancients of War, Druids of the Claw, Ancients of Lore, while Thijs is going to be getting weak threats such as Shielded Mini-Bots, Dive Jugglers, or maybe even Muster for Battle.
Yeah, and if you're looking at the board right now, I mean, 13 damage right now from Massan, 14 if he hero powers. How exactly are you supposed? I guess a lay on hands could stop some of the aggression, but how much of it really?
Yeah, that's another good point in that Lay on Hands is pretty much the only active card draw in the Paladin's deck, so that's the only way Thijs will be able to get more cards. Whereas, oh, that's a pretty good draw, Black Knight. Whereas
He's dead.
Massan has Ancients of Lore in his deck, which and two of them, in fact. Yeah, but I think Thijs is dead.
It's about getting that Bluegill Warrior. Again, off of that Paladin Shredder.
Let me think.
I think that's all this is about. And I think he's going to try for it. And he gets the Shrink Meister. The game, I believe, is now over. There is no way to kill the Shade. Get it out of the way. Wow, and that will give Massan his first win, which, as you said, you know, very early Paladin curve. This is generally favored for the Druid, since they're running so many taunts. And, you know, he did have the Wild Growth, and he did have the Innervate, so that allowed him to ramp up very, very heavily. 2 Innervates even, I think, for... well, his second Innervate was used on a hero power, which was really not that important. It just took the shield off of the mini-bot, but...
Yeah, the key cards were the Innervates, the Wild Growths, but also definitely the Swipe, which was swiping a full board to clear on turn 6. I would say pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, he had to play into it. Thijs, that is, had to play into the swipe. But Massan must have been breathing a sigh of relief when he saw it come up, because the amount, like 2 Zombie Chows, 3 1/1s, and the Knife Juggler on the board, you've got to be thinking, if I don't get a board wipe for this, I'm going to get completely rolled over. Because even if you get some health back from the Zombie Chows afterwards, it'll be maybe a bit too late. You'll be down to 7 health by the time you can stabilize.
Yeah, we're getting word that Thijs will be counter-picking his Druid, which is, of course, his signature class. Thijs is, along with Strifecrow, the most notable Druid player in the world.
Yeah.
Thijs was... He got famous pretty much in Hearthstone for playing the I Hearth You King of the Hill, where he went something like 11-0 in matches. And it was something crazy, basically. And almost all his matches, Druid was the MVP. In fact, in those matches, Thijs actually popularized Ramp Druid with Wild Growth. I don't know if that's a bit of Hearthstone history you know about, Noxious.
Yeah, well, I'm aware of the, like, it came, like, Ramp Druid didn't really start being very popular. I mean, the early archetypes of Druid were much different from Ramp than what we see nowadays. So yes, that had to come around when the Hearthstone scene developed into a bit more competitiveness.
All right, game 2 is about to begin. Druid Mirror.
It's all about that Wild Growth start, and Thijs' hand right now looking pretty sweet.
Both hands looking pretty decent, actually.
Yeah, I feel like... Well, then again, yeah, turn 1 Shade can snowball into unrealistic value later on.
Yeah, but I do see what you're hinting at, in that the Wild Growth is probably more important than the turn 1 Shade.
Yeah, it really will depend on how Thijs' hand develops, but as it is, I mean, he's curving pretty well into the Piloted Shredder. I mean, he could coin out the Wild Growth and innervate out the Paladin Shredder, but that really puts him a little bit all in on an early play, whereas he could just play Wild Growth and keep the innervate for the turn 5 Ancient of Lore.
Yeah, the Paladin Shredder doesn't really do much anyway, because it's just 4 mana. Whereas if he saves the innervate and the coin, he has the potential to curve out perfectly through turns 3 and on. Yeah,
this is actually really crazy, because if you look at the board, the tempo, so to speak, that Thijs will accumulate in the next few turns, that Paladin Shredder into Innervate Ancient of Lore into Sylvanas is a perfect curve. I mean, it's a slight distribution, and I think that's the power of Innervate. You can actually curve out in ways that you otherwise wouldn't be able to.
Well, yeah, I think you can even Ancient of Lore right now, which is what Thijs is going to do.
To contest the Shade? Okay. I guess you're not really afraid of it, and you can also kill Ascension if it's played.
The rationale is that you want to use your Innervate as fast as possible, because basically getting 2 mana when you're at 4 mana is more valuable than getting 2 extra mana when you're at 7 mana.
When you're at 7 mana, yeah. Depending on the hand you have, yeah, but generally speaking, you'd be right, yeah. All right, that
Yeah.
Druid of the Claw also going to allow the perfect curve to keep going. So Massan is thinking about trading away the Shade, and I can't really get behind that play. Because he could just wait one more turn and probably get the exact same result out of it.
I think it really depends on what kind of deck that Massan is putting Thijs on. There's basically two types of druids mainly. There's the more rampy version with no combos, and then there's also a rampy version with combos. Yeah, with one or two combos. So Massan is definitely going to be, he knows he's going to be the wall druid, but he's not sure yet what kind of druid Thijs is bringing. So if Thijs, if he knows, for example, that Thijs is the combo druid, he might choose to trade here just to say, oh, I just don't want you to do damage to my face because I know in the long game I'll win.
Yeah, and also that, like, if he'd seen the Piloted Shredders, he would have figured out right away what kind of druid that was. So that was also a lack of information from Massan regarding Thijs' deck.
Yeah, here
wow.
he'll get a hint that it's going to be a combo druid, just
a
because.
big hint.
Yeah, the druid of the claw is charging instead of being going in taunt mode. Basically, he just doesn't want to get Black Knighted, and he just wants to do more damage to face.
Exactly, and also in this position, Druid of the Claw, as a taunt minion, is not even viable because it dies to Keeper of the Grove plus trade, and you're also afraid of the Black Knight coming down and just completely ruining you.
Yeah, I think the Black Knight is probably the biggest concern at the moment.
So if you're in this position, I mean, look at Massan's hand size, right? He didn't get his Ancient of Lore. Thijs got a really early one, so he's been able to replenish his hand completely. And he'll have many options to come for the next. And Sylvanas here just dominating the board. You can't play Ancient of War. You have to play more mid-range taunts. So Massan is in a position where he's got card disadvantage. He's facing down a minion that can trade very effectively what he's got. So how exactly do you stabilize from then on?
I don't know.
It feels like a little bit of a tough spot.
Yeah, the biggest problem I feel is the card disadvantage that Massan has.
Yep.
The Ancient of War is going to be pretty huge unless Thijs draws a Black Knight. But Thijs just has so many more answers, and he also has that Ragnaros on turn 8. That's going to be a huge problem.
Yeah, because Massan doesn't even have a BGH in hand, or anything along the lines of a removal piece for that Ragnaros. I mean, wow. Oh, there it is. All right, if that Ragnaros comes out, there will be a slight way to answer it.
Yeah. Massan just throwing out the Sludge Belcher out right here instead of the Ancient War to test the waters for Black Knight. But I feel like Thijs, even if he had a Black Knight in hand, he might just want to save it for the Ancient of War that he knows will
inevitably come out. Yeah. So I'm just looking at Wrath here. Do you Wrath for card draw and then innervate Ragnaros and see what exactly comes of it? Because okay, wow, he swipes it instead of trading a minion.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, with the Piloted Shredder, I guess it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, this is just a more consistent play, and it's hard to get locked out of the game. Harder for like a big swing, basically.
Yeah, because you can. Ragnaros is vulnerable to BGH and hard removal, whereas the Shredder, it just isn't. And see, Massan finds the Ancient of Lore a bit late, it feels, though, because he sees 3 minutes on his opponent's board, and he's got to be feeling like there's some kind of a combo coming up soonish.
I don't really like this play that much. It feels a little weak. I don't know. He's definitely, again, he's playing around Black Knight, but at this point I feel your opponent has so many cards that if you just play these weak creatures every single turn, you're just gonna
keep get overrun eventually.
Yeah, you're gonna keep losing tempo every single turn. But at the same time, the Sludge Belcher is kind of okay against this board because it can test everything on that's currently on the board so well.
Yeah, but considering the Druid of the Claw would charge, this is going to be a strategy that goes downhill from Massan pretty quickly. I mean, he's facing down 4 minions with 4 attack, none of which are dead. The swipe doesn't really accomplish much, and you're about to die on the following turn.
Yeah, so is this going to be the turn that Ancient of War goes down?
It has to. There's no argument about that.
Massan is shaking his head. He's like, what kind of situation have I put myself in?
Yeah, like, he's in a position where, oh, wow, Ragnaros. Actually, this is lethal.
Well, yeah, this is just Force of Nature is lethal right now. Oh, Force of Nature, Savage Roar. Why not?
Oh, no. He doesn't want to show his Ragnaros.
Yeah. Not showing Ragnaros is pretty important here.
Yep.
Massan
It
might
is a
just
card that
play.
has been phased out quite often, so
Yeah, it's not a common card at all in this kind of combo druid. So not showing it is like, oh, your opponent might play a BGH on turn 3 in the next game.
yeah, it's just trying to throw it out there because he hasn't seen any targets. I mean, he has to assume you've got Dr. Boom. I think that's a fair assumption. But as far as Ragnaros goes, he might be a bit more liberal with playing BGH if he's dry on cards. So definitely not showing the Rag here. It's funny how that card used to be a staple of every single actually, wait, every single deck almost. And since the the metagame has expanded with the Nax Ramos and GVG, it's been played less and less as time passed.
Oh yeah, just I think the BGH is the biggest reason. Everyone's just running BGHs these days. That it's kind of like a cycle. Cards such as Dr. Boom and Ragnaros, they get popular, and then BGHs become popular. And as BGHs become popular, those cards kind of recede in popularity.
Yeah.
And then maybe a few months later, BGHs will become even more popular than they are now, and then Dr. Booms and Ragnaroses will go down in popularity once again.
Yeah, I feel like Dr. Boom is still on the edge of being viable regardless of the BGH count. But Ragnaros is definitely way too weak because he doesn't do anything else. I mean, if he spawned little Ragnaros Deuterinos, then maybe you'd get something done with them. But that's just not happening. And there's also the Scenarios as a card I haven't seen at all in Druid, or at least not much recently. Of recent days, it's not a card I've seen very frequently.
Oh, I think we're about to start the next game. Actually, it's going to be Mage versus Druid. We've seen Massan playing Mage before, and it's going to be a Mech Mage. So let's see what this game brings. Mech Mage versus Druid.
That's that can go either way very, very quickly depending on the kind of draw that the Mage gets and how fast he's able to put pressure.
Yeah, looking at these starts, the Wrath is pretty good, but the Mad Scientist is probably even better. Unfortunately, Massan doesn't have a turn 1 play, but the turn 2 Mad Scientist is almost as good as you can get.
Yeah, he blacked out on the turn 1. I mean, he blanked out on the turn 1, but his turn 3 is still viable with a ping and Clockwork Gnome. It's really not the absolute worst.
Oh,
the double shade here, that's going to be very important.
Yeah, this matchup is a lot about who can curve out the best, and I would say generally it's going to be the Mech Mage that curves out the best because it typically runs a lower curve, but in this particular scenario we see the Druid curving out much better, which I feel is going to give Druid a pretty huge lead going into this game.
Yeah, with the Shaded Axe here and Keeper of the Grove and the Swipe and the Wrath, oh goodness, the options are... Actually, that's incredible. I mean, the Yeti's going to be somewhat fine, but... Wow.
A really solid board from Thijs right now, and off of the solid board, he's going to have a lot of removal options going to the next 3 or 4 turns. He has the Swipe, Wrath, and Keeper of the Grove, and he also actually has the Force of Nature, which usually isn't good in this matchup, but just because he has all these other cards that help him stabilize in the early game, the Force of Nature can be fairly useful on turn 6.
Oh wow, I was talking of Scenarios and how I just didn't see that guy very often nowadays. Well, it seems like Thijs has brought it to the table. I'm a little surprised, but I'm happy about it, I guess. It's kind of have you just noticed that it's not been played very often, or am I just making stuff up? I just haven't seen it much.
I think a lot of combo druids have been phasing it out a bit, but I still see it fairly often in rampy druids. For example, the kind of druid that Massan was running last game typically does run the Scenarios.
Alright, so Thijs here playing into Mirror Entity, I believe, trying to make sure that if the Mirror Entity trigger is going to give a 2/4, that he can then kill with his Shade of Axe. Yep, definitely. Very nicely done here.
You're going to have to trigger that mirror image anyway, and it might as well be on a turn where you can actively deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at the board right now, though, Thijs' hand is still pretty solid. He's got a good way to answer just about everything that's been thrown at him at this point.
Yeah, but Massan is actually able to answer the board as well pretty well. This is a pretty good board clear, but unfortunately, there's the possibility of a swipe. Actually, the
swipe is fairly mediocre. I think you just Wrath for card draw, maybe, or do you kill a Yeti with the Wrath?
I think taking out the 4 power on the board is fair.
Oh, finicky Cloak Shield. Reversing switch for Massan.
Possibly setting up the swipe or the Force of Nature for the next turn with his hero power.
Yeah, definitely that's what he's doing. In case it gets buffed, at least it'll die to something else. So I feel like that's the right play. And Paladin Shredder are actually going to make this the swipe a little less impactful than maybe Thijs would have liked it to be.
Okay. Massan chooses not to use the Cloak Field. If he draws the Archmage Antonidas, as we saw from Amaz versus Nervia, as we saw from that series, if he draws the Archmage Antonidas, he can pretty much swing the game around entirely.
That's a really nice draw here with a Finicky Cloak Field for Thijs, because this Azure Drake will make the swipe deal 5 and 2 damage respectively, which is going to be very impactful.
Yeah, Azure Swipe, just a huge combo in Druid.
Wow.
Typically, Druid has a bad time comboing, but Druid has a hard time clearing out the board, but Azure Swipe is pretty much about as good as it gets.
Yeah, but then again, you look at the board right now from Massan. It's got enough things that are sticky, they're big enough to contest the Drake, so that swipe alone is not enough. It feels like there's a little bit missing here on Thijs' side. And there's a fireball in Massan's hand, so all it would take is a little bit of face targeting, and I think that could be it. I mean, look at the board. How do you approach this situation? If you swipe the Yeti, the Undertaker still lives. So you'd have to swipe Yeti, attack the Undertaker with your face, and trade your Drake into the 4/4.
Yeah, an alternate play would be YOLO into the Shredder.
Piloted Shredder? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's oh, goodness. That's a really YOLO play.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
This is just the power of Mech Mage. And even if Thijs clears almost everything on this board, we're going to see a Dr. Boom on next turn, which Thijs cannot deal with at all.
This reversing switch might actually come in handy, reducing the attack of a minion that Thijs decides to attack.
Yeah, he could either reversing switch the Shredder or the Tinkertown Technician, and that would allow the Drake to survive.
Yeah, but now the game is over. He decided, I mean, he wants to have the Drake live, but he's dead to Fireball regardless.
Okay, so for this play...
Nice.
Yeah, this play he lets him survive a Fireball.
Wait, no, Massan had lethal. What?
Oh yeah, if he just reversing switched, he had lethal. He realized it. Oh man.
Oh, he just realized he missed lethal. It's fine, Massan. We won't hold it against you. You played too quickly for your own good, but I mean, you still got Dr. Boom. You're good to go.
I mean, he still wins.
Yeah. He saw the miss lethal and he knows it's gonna haunt him for days. He's gonna be like, he has 3 spare parts. The game is trying to tell him, dude, you better do this right now.
He's like, yeah, this game is like, I gave you 3 chances to win the game right here, and you're not using any of them? Come on, Massan.
Yeah. I think it's a case of there's too much obvious and he missed everything. Well, he can't miss it this time.
Can we say that Massan missed lethal 3 times in this game?
Yeah, we could say that. He missed lethal 3 times in the same game, on the same turn. That's really harsh. So you know what you do here? You're reversing switch your own minion 3 times. So it goes back to a 1/4. So it goes back, sorry, to a 4/1 at the end.
Yeah, that's pretty good BM. I mean, Massan could just say, "Oh, I was just trying to BM here, and nothing too serious."
Okay, he's not doing it.
Well, you could just double reversing switch. Yeah, that's good.
I think there's a lot of BM missing, but.
I mean, if I were in this situation, I would just be trying to BM in the best way possible.
Get that BM counter up a little bit.
Does Massan not see lethal?
What? I think he's calculating the best BM possible as well.
Okay.
I mean, he's got to be. There are 25,000 lethals.
Maybe he's considering what could possibly come out of this Shredder that could just screw him over.
Okay, yeah, he was doing lethal.
Wait.
He was doing BM. Wait, what?
Wait, what's going on here?
What?
Oh my god. Okay. That was a bit confusing, to be honest.
Oh my god! I have no idea.
I want to hear what Massan had to say about this game. Thijs must be so confused as well. He's like, why did you take that whole turn to do that?
Yeah, this is the kind of game on ladder where I face my opponent and he kills me like this, and I'm like, what's wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Why did you take like 90 seconds to do that?
it wasn't even like really BM. It was like that was just
No.
weird. Like
Yeah.
I can't tell if that was BM or not.
Because if it was BM, I think it would have tried to be more elaborate about it. Like, it would have been more obvious.
Yeah, so 1 out of 10 BM, I would say.
I guess, yeah. I mean, it started off as a potential 10 out of 10, and then it slowly downgraded, and it ended up being the most confusing win I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to have a little talk with Massan about that game afterwards.
Yeah, definitely. So, Massan is going to go up against Thijs' Mage. So, Massan is running Mech Mage, as we've seen, and I believe Thijs is going to bring Freeze Mage in this case. I think we've seen his deck from a past series.
Yeah, it would make sense because Thijs did ban Massan's Warrior, right?
Yep, exactly, which is the worst matchup for Freeze Mage.
Mhm.
Well, is it the worst? I would say so, but is there something even worse than that? I can't think of anything.
Fatigue Druid comes close.
All right, yeah, I could imagine with the amount of healing and the fact that you just can't use your answers on anything.
Exactly. All right, the game's about to begin. Freeze Mage versus Mech Mage.
All right, Massan's Mech Mage. He's doing the duck face of victory here.
Massan the duck.
Oh goodness, please no. Let's start a comic. So Massan is not ending the turn, or is he? Okay,
Maybe he just forgot. I don't know. I don't know what's going through Massan's head these days. So
yeah, I don't know either. I mean, after that fireball lethal that took 90 seconds, I'm still under the weather. No mech here to buff the Cogmaster. You have to be very careful with the pronunciation of that minion's name.
yes, a lot of people get it wrong, and if you get it wrong even so slightly, it becomes a little strange, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. Man, Massan is thinking this through. Like, he's taking this very seriously.
He's like, okay, he's on turn 3. He's like, okay, wait, do I have lethal? Waits like 30 seconds. He's like, no, I don't have lethal. Okay, I'll just play out my turn.
So you know what's really interesting is the fact that Thijs has a guaranteed Doomsayer, board wipe because of Mirror Entity. Whenever he decides to, he just wipes the board.
Yeah,
I mean,
that
Massan can't possibly overextend at this point. Oh goodness, he does.
Yeah, that's the weakness of Mirror Entity in this matchup. If your opponent plays a Doomsayer, well, you just copy it and you wipe your entire board for free for your opponent.
Yeah, I hope Massan notices that and doesn't overextend beyond what he's already got, because he has to try to kill his opponent with spells. I mean, I guess you could play the Drake and hope for the best for card draw purposes.
Are we sure that the secret is Mirror Entity though? I know it's the most common secret in Mech Mage, but some Mech Mages, some Mech Mages they run like one counter spell, and very rarely they might also run duplicate.
But it doesn't really matter for Thijs, because if it is Mirror Entity, then it copies Doomsayer, and if it's counter spell, you coin out Frost Nova, right?
Oh wait, what?
Wait. Oh, what? Okay, wait.
So
No.
it's duplicate?
Duplicate and I guess I can make sense of it, but not really. I can make some sense of it, but I'm not.
You know, Thijs is actually a Mech Mage player himself. He recently went 4-0 against Forsen in the I Heart You King of the Hill show match, and in that show match afterwards, I talked to him about the match basically, and I asked him, why do you have 2 Mad Scientists in your deck and only 1 secret, which was Mirror Entity? And he's basically like, you never want to draw those secrets, and pretty much Mirror Entity is the only secret that's good in Mech Mage.
Yeah.
So basically saying, Massan, this duplicate, it's not. It happened to kind of work out here, but
He's gonna get 2 Cogmasters if that's the case. But now Mirror Entity is becoming valuable, right? I mean, now you're happy about Mirror Entity, it suddenly becomes so much better because the Doomsayer's already been played. Oh wow, 3 Cogmasters. That's something I think I'd see. But...
You're gonna have a mech at least.
I mean, you have to play the 3 of them and hope there's no Flame Strike, and then you just go all out damage-wise. Massan is overextending into Flame Strike, and he's saying to himself, you know what? I'm trying. And there's no punishment coming for him yet, and if no Frost Nova is drawn off of that Arcane Intellect, this huge gamble might pay off. Very much so.
Huge gamble indeed. It's pretty rare that for Thijs, he doesn't have any more board clears. I think he's going to have to go for the Arcane Intellect to hope to draw more. Oh.
I mean, you could Mad
That's
Scientist, Ice
science.
Barrier, but then again, it's so weak. Like Arcane Elect give you Ice Block to buy time into another AoE board wipe.
You can't even clear anything either. I think, yeah, you can't even ping anything. So
Yeah.
you might, if you go for the play that you mentioned, Mad Scientist,
It's so
Ice
weird.
Barrier, you have to like maybe also
Going
expend a
out.
Frostbolt.
I don't even know. Yeah, a Frostbolt to kill at least one minion, but then you're probably thinking you're. Well, I think Ice Barrier is still a viable play because there is a lot of damage right now on Massan's board, but there's no lethal
Mhm.
unless there's a fireball or something else on the back end.
Arcane Intellect hoped to draw Blizzard's not good enough. He was hoping to draw either Frost Nova or Kona Cold.
Yeah, I think the way he
Or-
did it in this order was definitely the right play with the Arcane Int into the Mad Scientist Ice Barrier instead of starting with those two. That's pretty obviously the better play. So.
Yeah. If Thijs ran Explosive Shape as well, that would probably be the best draw actually.
Oh yeah, that would definitely help out. So the Cogmasters are surprisingly aggressive here. I mean, a 3/2 for 1 mana, that's pretty solid. He got them off of duplicates. Not exactly the prime minion you want to get back off of it. You'd rather get Piloted Shredders. But in this case, it will allow him to get a very early damage output
Yeah.
on Thijs.
In this particular scenario, it happened to turn out pretty good.
Do you even
Uh,
attack that 2/2? I can't see the... I mean, he has to make the trade anyway with the Blizzard. Then
I would
again,
just
we know
say-
that this is
yeah.
not Mirror Entity, this is Duplicate again. It did not trigger off of the Mad... Oh, there was no room for the Mad Scientist. Wait, what is that secret? You can't Blizzard because you can't Ice Block, and your Mad Scientist has to give you Ice Block.
Yeah, I don't know. Massan's deck is weird.
Yeah, Massan's deck is weird, but it's working out right now. Don't ask me how. Okay, so he's gonna have to Frostbolt his own Mad Scientist to guarantee Ice Block? There's no way.
I don't think he can actually afford to do that right now. I think
Does he run two... Do you know if he runs 2 Ice Barriers or only the 1?
I have no idea. I believe we only saw one Freeze Mage deck throughout this entire tournament. We only saw like most of one Freeze Mage deck, and it was Hosty's
Yeah.
deck that ran one Ice Barrier or
One Ice
something like
Barrier.
that.
Yeah. I think right now... I mean, if there are 2 Ice Barriers, then there's 66% chance that the Ice Block comes out off the Mad Scientist that's on the board. And in that case, that's a pretty decent play.
I think Thijs is apprehensive about trading his Mad Scientist because he's not sure what secret he's going to get either.
Yeah, I think that's what's happening, but you really don't have the choice at this point. You have to trade the Mad Scientist, then Blizzard to stall the aggression. Attacking the Piloted Shredder would give another minion to Massan, which is something you can't afford, so... And this is Ice Barrier. Oh, wow. Not at all what he wants to see, because he's dead to Frostbolt. He's dead to so many things right now.
Yeah, there's also a play that can make Ice Barrier totally worthless. Basically, you just keep pinging your opponent, never do any more damage
until he
to the board.
dies. Yeah, I think he
until
can
he
just
gets to
afford
1
do
HP.
that.
I think basically he can afford to just, if he doesn't have 8 damage on board next turn, he can basically afford to never attack and just ping his opponent down to 1 HP.
Yeah, but there's Alex Straza come out right now. There's a bit of more... This is a bit of a more difficult situation for Massan if that comes out. Because there will be 23 effective health on Thijs' side.
Yeah, and 23 health, or 15 health rather, from the Alex Straza isn't something you can burn down with Mech Mage unless you get the Antonitis off.
Exactly, which is pretty much the problem right now. I mean, I guess if he gets Antonitis or Dr. Boom with emergency coolant, that could give him enough time or enough damage output to whittle down the Ice Barrier and the Alex Straza together.
Alright, Thijs looking for more board clears, more freezes.
And that's... Well, this is not really helpful for him. And he decided not to Alex Straza, which is a play he decided to make. It's a sacrifice he made in order to do what he's doing right now. But I don't know that it's going to be good enough. So he trades tries for a Doomsayer. An Oiotron comes out.
That's
Ice
not
Block
bad.
is on the board. Yeah, it's pretty good for Massan, for one.
It's somewhat good for both players because on one hand, it doesn't do a lot of damage for Thijs, and on the other hand,
The card draw.
On the other hand, for Massan, it has mech synergy and it's just generally a pretty good card.
So we're looking right now. There's a total of 5, 6, 7 damage on the board for Massan. All he has to find is one spell to maybe seal the game. Do you think he's gonna be waiting on his Archmage Antonidas before using these spare parts? I think that makes a lot of sense, but
I think if you get Archmage Antonidas and you have 3 spare parts, you pretty much win the game against Freeze Mage.
Yeah,
Freeze Mage, they typically don't have Polymorph, so they'll have to like Fireball the Archmage Antonidas. That costs them 1 turn essentially, and then in the next turn you just spam like 3 or 4 Fireballs to their face.
Yeah. So wait, Alex draws a face on Massan's side, then you well, you Blood Mage, Frostbolt, Icelands.
Is that enough? That's 4 plus 4 plus 5.
That's close. That's 1 off lethal. Oh goodness. Do you try it out and hope for that Fireball? Because I mean, there's no way you can clear the board realistically before you hit a point where you win the game, right?
Yeah, I believe Fireball top deck is the only thing that can guarantee lethal the next turn.
And I think Thijs is gonna go for it.
Thijs has already used his second Icelands too.
Yeah, he's seen the second Icelands used on a 4/4, I believe, to mitigate some of the damage output of Massan, but that's just not enough right now. All right. Massan has enough damage to go through the ice barrier and pop the ice block. So this is really this comes down to Thijs getting his Fireball. If he gets it, this is going to be an incredible recovery. I didn't put Thijs on the ability to win here, but there's definitely two cards left in his deck that can save him. An ice block would also do the job.
Yeah, ice block would give him 1 more turn, and it would also let him play the Acolyte plus ping, so he can draw even more parts.
So he's got 2 card draws next turn. Let's see. Whoa!
Fireball!
Fireball from Thijs.
Well, there it is.
An amazing follow-up there.
That was exactly the card he needed to win this game.
Yeah, but I think he could have still been able to do it with the Acolyte of Pain ping and maybe hope for that second ice block, but definitely that Fireball sealing the game in ways that, I mean, I thought without those ice blocks earlier, he was way worse off than Massan was.
Yeah, that was, this is like kind of like a typical Freeze Mage game. It's basically, do you have the burst at the very end or not? All Freeze Mage games typically come down to that very last burst turn. It's always going to be very close if the Freeze Mage can get it or not.
Yeah, it's a little bit like Miracle Rogue in that way, where sometimes it's all about them having the Gadsden Auctioneer in those old matchups, where now it's like, do I have the Frostbolt, Iceland's Fireball to deal the damage to you after Alex draws at you? It comes down to like a 1-2 punch combination. But Thijs really, what were the odds? How many cards did he have left in his deck? Because I don't think he's drawn that many.
Well, he used both Arcane Intellects, but he also didn't get any Acolytes off. He only got 1 Loot Hoarder off.
Yeah.
And I believe that was the only card draw. There's probably something like 10 or so cards, probably a bit more than 10 cards in his deck, but he also had like 3 or 4 outs that either let him survive or let him win the game outright.
Let him win the game, yeah, exactly. So there were like 2 Fireballs, the Ice Block to give him time, and he had another draw from the Acolyte of Pain. So the odds weren't that bad, but I think they were slightly tilted in Massan's favor. Although over the course of the entire game, I think the RNG did equalize, because I think Thijs had a pretty bad mid-game in that specific matchup.
Alright, we're going to be going on to the next game. It's going to be Massan's Paladin against Thijs' Freeze Mage.
Alright, well, I'm going to give this game to Thijs before the game starts. My prediction is that Thijs takes this one because Freeze Mage, I feel, it has such a massive edge on Paladin. Obviously, if they have, infinite healing, it can be problematic, but that's not exactly the most common outcome. In general, you just whittle down their board.
But we do see a mind control tech from Massan's hand, which tells me that more likely than not, Massan is running a more control-y Paladin. And we've seen control Paladins run lots of heals. In some decks, even like Savitz's deck or Hot Form's deck, they run 1 anti-heal bot, or maybe even 2 anti-heal bots, plus 2 lay on hands. So that's effectively almost 32 points of healing sometimes.
Okay, double anti-heal bot is not something I've seen very frequently. I've seen the double lay on hands in some lists. Double anti-heal bot, though, is very teched against aggro. And I guess the MC tech indicates that that's what he's teching against. So, you're maybe right on that one. Makes a lot of sense.
Because he has a MC tech, he definitely doesn't have any zombie chows, which are pretty much a dead card in this matchup. So this particular paladin deck is going to do fairly well, I'd say, against the freeze mage in comparison to other paladin decks.
Yeah, and also we're looking at double True Silver Champion, which is not negligible. That's a lot of damage right now. I mean, we're talking about 16 damage between 2 cards, which can be very, very important for the paladin.
Yeah, not only is it a lot of damage, but it's potentially a lot of heal as well. I mean, a lot of people discount that 2 healing from True Silver Champion, but once you combine both True Silvers, it adds up to something like 8 points of healing. So that's another 8 points that the freeze mage has to go through.
Yeah, assuming he doesn't Alex Straza you, definitely. Because if you get healed in the mid game and the Alex Strazas, obviously that healing is rendered useless. But if you play it, if it's played over the course of the mid game and there's never an Alex Straza that comes into the picture, then definitely that 8 heal will add up to, you know, a healing touch overall. All right, let's see what comes out of that shredder. Millhouse Metastorm.
I like
what? Oh no! This is actually pretty good for Massan, oddly enough.
Yeah, it's probably not going to heal him before Alshada comes out and before Thijs actually starts wanting to deal damage. But still, it's going to keep his minions alive after board clears such as Blizzard or Kona Cold. So yeah, pretty good piloted shredder drop, I'd say.
Yeah, it's not the absolute best, but it's definitely going to be a headache on Thijs' part. Because between the randomness of it and the fact that it has 5 health, I mean, that's a pretty huge chunk of health to remove. You need to get a Doomsayer on it. Sylvanas, eh?
I have no time for games.
If Thijs had a mind control tech.
Yeah. And unfortunately, mind control tech on in freeze mage, not the most common card in the world.
No, definitely not. Not even viable, I'd even say. So the hand from Thijs, you know, it has a Frost Nova, it's got a Cone of Cold, but I mean, certainly there's nothing there. I guess you have to play with the hopes of a good Archmage later on, right? Like Archmage Frostbolt Ice Lance to the face to get 2 Fireball cycles. Or Archmage Frost Nova in order to get even more card draw.
Yeah, this is exactly the type of situation where I look at it and I say, this is why I don't play freeze mage.
Yeah, this is why I don't like playing freeze mage, because these situations are basically you putting your eggs into the out that you've got left in the deck. It's not about what you have, and I hate playing when it's about what I don't have. You know, when you have to play according to what you might get. This is where the decisions become a little more blurry. But he's got time.
Time indeed.
He's pinging the Lightwell. Trying to spread that damage around so the Lightwell doesn't heal itself, maybe.
That's so funny.
Yeah. If the Lightwell heals the mind control tech, what a waste of a turn.
What does it heal?
The zombie chow. Not exactly what you want to see. Ooh, 1 anti-heal bot here going to be a big deal against Freeze Mage. If Alex Straza does come out, or if damage is, you know, just sent straight up to Massan's face. I mean, True Silver Champion and anti-heal bot, that's a lot of healing.
Yeah, and not only that, it's going to be a lot of damage. 2 True Silver Champions and possibly an Ashbringer. That's pretty much enough damage to just kill the Freeze Mage from 30 HP.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't play Archmage Antonidas on a board like this because of Sylvanas, so you're not feeling too good about this. I mean, Blood Mage Thalnos... do you have to... He's got all his burn spells, but no way to really lower the health of the opponent, like, before that becomes relevant. So do you try to just keep the Zombie Chow alive until you need the health? I'm guessing that's what he's going to try to do to buy himself even more time.
Yeah, Zombie Chow not threatening at all. You can just keep it alive, I feel. This is a board where my gut reaction is to Frost Nova, but it might not be the correct decision because you might need it for a later turn.
Yeah, with an actual Doomsayer.
Is that the turn? Wow, Thijs just pings and passes.
Yeah, he wants his opponent probably to just to remove the ice barrier and lower him in health, so that at least there's justification to kill the Zombie Chow. Because if you're if you're armored up and you attack Zombie Chow and you kill it, you really don't get any value off of it. The drawback doesn't really help you out as a mage.
Yeah, I hate playing Freeze Mage, and I also hate playing against Freeze Mage, because once I see my opponent ping and pass on turn 8, I'm like, what's
Oh.
going on here, guys?
If Thijs wants to go all in, he could try the Alex Straza to the face play and try to burn down his opponent, but he'll be really surprised when he sees the anti-heal bot coming out. So he might be calculating, if I put my opponent down on 15 and I get the Frostbolt, like the Blood Mage, double Frostbolt, double Ice Lance, how much damage do I really get out at this point? And I think it's a good gamble, but he's going to be disappointed when he sees the anti-heal bot and the True Silver Champion healer, with the Light Well just factoring in for even more health.
That light well value, man. Just,
Yeah, it's just insane, isn't it?
Yeah, I think with these kind of combo decks like Freeze Mage and like the old Miracle Rogue, sometimes you just have to play with the hands that RNGs this gives you. So Alex Straza, pretty good. Probably the best he could have done with that scenario, but
Yeah.
fortunately, Ice Block is popped.
And there's no really amazing... I mean, yeah, Consecration kills him even. I mean, there's nothing here he can do. Frost Nova won't save him.
I think his only out is he has to ping his Blood Mage, get Ice Block.
Yeah, I think that's all he's got.
I think he's thinking that maybe if my opponent doesn't have a Consecration or a True Silver Champion, I can maybe still out one more turn.
With Blood Mage all out to the face and then try out the double Fireball next turn. I mean, it's
with just Frost Nova and something else. I
mean,
guess.
if he kills the Zombie Chow with a Frostbolt, he gets some health back, right? So he will be able to live one more turn after the Nova. But the question is, how many times do you really have a follow-up there?
Well, actually, Frostbolting the Zombie Chow doesn't actually save him, because True Silver plus Consecration is lethal.
Yeah, in this case, there's absolutely no way to save him. But it feels like he's healing up.
Well, again, he has to ping his...
Oh, he's going all in. He's saying, if my opponent doesn't have 1 damage, I could win next turn on the back of this with the double Fireball.
But
so I really like the play he's making. It's a really, really honest play that says, well, I'm hoping you have nothing, and if you do, then so be it. Look at that light well. Holy hell.
Lay on hands.
Unbelievable. All right, well, Massan will take the series 3-2 against Thijs. It was a really nice series to watch. I generally give these games to Freeze Mage. My prediction was completely off. Turns out the amount of healing in Massan's deck, combined with the little help from the light well, just a little bit of health, not a big deal. Wasn't really that impactful this game, but fun enough. And wow, that makes him... I mean, he's doing great right now. He's gonna move on to the round of 4.
Yeah, this is Massan's first tournament since coming back from military training in South Korea. So it's gonna be pretty awesome to see him moving on so far from after the break that he's had.
Yeah, he's got to feel pretty good about this now. Like, just the decks he brought were really on point, and he's played them pretty well. I mean, that Mech Mage deck is doing a lot of work for him over the course of the tournament. So we'll be right back after the break, guys. We have a 10-minute break, and yeah, the tournament will go on, so don't go anywhere.
Yeah, after the 10-minute break, we'll have the first semifinal match, Nyria versus Firebat. So join us for that match right there and then.
Round of 4.
Round of 4, boys.